For our second recipe today, the corn and miso soup, we are kind of sort of moving into fall. I don't want to use that word, but we're almost there. I think what, Friday, Saturday is when we get into the fall season. Anyway, this soup is a powerhouse of helpful nutrients: protein, B vitamins, iron, vitamin E, and also fiber. And soup is also counted as part of our fluid intake. So this recipe will be great if you are someone who suffers from constipation or has trouble keeping your bowels regular, because it has both the fiber you need and the fluid, and they work together to prevent constipation. Now, I also want to tell you that if you need more than diet, then definitely talk to your healthcare team about maybe a regular bowel routine. But for now, we're going back to the kitchen with Jeremy and checking out this wonderful soup.
Fantastic. Thanks, Daniela. Okay, so yes, we're making a really nice fall-inspired soup. I know we think of fall, and don't worry about saying fall. I love fall. I love autumn. It's my favorite season. I know it's short, but I think this is definitely my favorite. We usually think of like squash and sweet potato, a lot of those root vegetables. Those are beautiful. I think sometimes corn gets neglected, and I think it's just a wonderfully accessible ingredient, really easy in terms of preparation, storage, just more budget friendly, and it's really nice and sweet and flavorful. So I love utilizing corn as the base for this delicious soup. So we're going to start off with some of the aromatics. We're using some onion, some garlic, and I'm going to show you a couple ways to make the prep of this a little bit easier. So starting with the garlic, with the peel still on, this can be a little cumbersome, especially if you do find it challenging to peel the skins off and even just to hold a smaller clove. So to make this a little bit easier, again, theme here, smash. I think this is what I usually do, and usually we use the side of a knife, but it will work with the bottom of a little jar as well. And again, with the skins on, just a gentle little smash, and it should release the skins. They'll pop right off. Makes it so much easier. And you can see they're falling off. And we have our clove of garlic ready to go, peeled, no fuss. Makes it super easy. I know that they have like these fancy garlic peeling gadgets where you kind of shake it around and do a little dance. You can try those too if they work for you. I do prefer the little smash and squish here. We have our garlic cloves ready to go. With our onion, here's where I will be using a knife. And again, if you do find that there are really great tools that have larger grips, more comfortable grips, there is like a mezzaluna. I don't know if you've heard of mezzaluna before, which is essentially just a curved blade with the handle on top, and you just rock it back and forth over your product. That will do a great job. You can use that as well. Or what I love to suggest is a little food chopper, like a little mini food processor. Those tools, and if you're going to invest in a little piece of equipment, those little food processors are fantastic. They can do a lot of that prep work for you. You can chop up your onions, garlic. You can do obviously more than that, but it's a great way to sort of prep your ingredients, and all you do is really push a button. So that's another great option. With this, we're going to use a knife, and so I'm just going to make lateral cuts. Do you have anything about onions maybe, or other tips, Daniela? We have a little announcement here, so I'll throw it to you.
Oh, yes. I thought I heard something there. So one thing we like to talk about with onions and garlic is that once you cut it or smash it, like Jeremy just did, if you let it sit for 10 minutes, it allows the development of an antioxidant. And because Jeremy is adding this to heat, the heat would kill off the development of that antioxidant. So if you do what Jeremy suggested, let it sit for 10 minutes, then add it to the hot oil, then now you have the benefit of another antioxidant called allicin. And it's usually, you kind of can feel that slime. I don't want to say sliminess, stickiness. Stickiness is better. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, we shoot out of the basement of a hospital. So sometimes we have some announcements and interruptions, but we're ready to go. So, you know, a rough chop, whether it was with a knife, with another tool, with food processor, and if you can, like Daniela mentioned, you know, let it sit out for 10 minutes. And then we're gonna add it to our pot. So I have, making a small batch here. You can obviously do a bigger batch in the soup. But medium heat, a little bit of olive oil in here, but a tablespoon. And now to transfer our ingredients to the pot, one tool that I do suggest, I think is really, really helpful. I actually use it quite a bit when cooking. You may usually see it in like a bakery or someone making fresh pasta. This is a bench scraper. These are fantastic. So,
Correction, code white.
one more thing, Daniela.
I was actually going to say, I love the idea of using that tool. I'm going to have to purchase one of those, because transferring it from the cutting board to the pot, I always drop a few. I'm pretty clumsy.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, it definitely makes it a lot easier to transfer your ingredients. You can, I know some people will use like your knife to transfer, but it doesn't usually, it's not wide enough, and you are dropping some items. It can dull the blade a little bit too, which isn't great. So having a bench scraper is really helpful. It's a little bit easier to grip, and you can just easily pick up your ingredients and then safely transfer them to your pot. Okay, and so we have the onion, we have the garlic. The garlic, I just left crushed, lightly crushed. It's gonna do its work in there. It's gonna provide a really nice base of aroma. And then to this, and you can add any other spices, seasonings that you like. But as that softens, I'm gonna add our corn. Again, going back to the frozen, right? You can definitely use fresh, absolutely. It does take a little bit more work to prep, to cut the sort of corn niblets off of the cob. But these are fantastic, really nice and sweet, really easy to use. So from the freezer, we're gonna go ahead and add about, we're making a smaller batch, so I'm gonna probably add a little over a cup. But for a larger batch of the soup, that'll make about 4 to 6 servings. You're gonna have about 2 cups of frozen right in there. We're just emptying the bag, and I'll just gently stir it through, and we'll let that soften a little bit. And as that's softening, we're going to add one of my favorite little flavor boosters. This is miso paste, right? So we're making a miso corn soup. Super flavorful, really enhances the umami or the savoriness of the dish. And it's going to yeah, just really enhance the flavor of some of the other ingredients like the corn that we added. So I'm going to add a nice big tablespoon to this. You can use, this is a darker miso. You can use like a white miso. They have red misos. You can find different varieties in your grocery store. But it's a great way in a pinch to even make like a quick stock or broth. It's not technically a stock, but a way to enhance the flavor. If you don't have like a broth to make or broth to use for soup, you can just, you know, add some miso to water and use that instead. All right, so we're gonna let that soften for maybe a minute or so before we add our next ingredients.
Before you move on, I just want to say I agree with you, Jeremy, about corn. I think we kind of have forgotten that it actually does have some good value, and I wanted to point that out before we go forward. Like, it does have some fiber, so there's 2.4 grams of fiber in about 100 grams of boiled corn. There's also a bit of protein, and we're talking about B vitamins. They're chock full of B vitamins. Folate, vitamin B6, also called pyridoxine, niacin, pantothenic acid, and then to boot, there's also potassium. So I agree with you, Jeremy. Let's take out the corn and put it back into our soup.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we have our aromatics, we have our corn in there. This is another ingredient that I know Daniela wants to touch on, and I will touch on briefly in terms of the flavor. This is nutritional yeast. You may have heard of it before. It is pretty much a non-active, like brewer's yeast. It's not the same yeast you would use to make like pizza or some other, baked goods. That is active. This is non-active, and you can see it. It looks like this kind of nice little, like pale yellow flaky product. This also will add a ton of flavor. It has this really nice sort of richness, this nuttiness to it. It's wonderful, and then some great nutritional benefits that I didn't know about until recently either.
Yes, so nutritional yeast is often used if you're vegan, because vitamin B12 is sometimes difficult to get in a vegan diet. And vitamin B12, nutritional yeast, just 2 tablespoons can give you 17.6 micrograms of vitamin B12. What the heck does that mean? Well, that is equivalent to 733% of our daily value. So if you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, this is, or not, you can use nutritional yeast to bump up the vitamin B12. If you want, with this dish, Jeremy, you could probably add some shredded chicken, roasted, like you talk about buying the roasted chicken already and then just shredding some in. So if you are okay with animal proteins, then you can do that, or you can add some beef to it. But if you are vegetarian, know that nutritional yeast is a great product and a great way of adding vitamin B12.
Yeah, no, to your point, even if you're not vegetarian, I think it's a wonderful product to keep in your pantry. I add it to soups, you can add it to smoothies, you can add it to stocks. Again, like I mentioned, it does add this really, really nice sort of depth of flavor. And you can just keep it in like a little mason jar, throw it in your pantry, and it'll last a pretty long time, which is fantastic as well. So optional, you don't have to use this, but it's a great way to add some flavor. And then, like Daniela mentioned, that B12. Okay, so we have our aromatics, we have our flavors, we have our corn. Last little thing that we're gonna add is plant-based protein. This is one of our favorites, split red lentils. This is a fantastic way to thicken up and add some really nice structure to your soup. This is a pretty simple soup. We have corn, onion, garlic, and then some flavors, right? This is a really, really nice way to add some bulk and some texture to the soup. So we're gonna add about 3/4 of a cup of the split red lentils. What I love about them, again, you don't really need to do much work. It's not like dried beans where you have to soak them overnight. You can just give these a rinse and go ahead and add them directly to your soup pot. Okay.
And since we're talking about fiber in this dish and the richness of the fiber, just 1/2 cup of the red lentils gives you about 7.5 grams of fiber. And it also, as Jeremy mentioned, it's a plant-based protein, gives you about 9 grams of protein, which is just a little bit more than what you would find in an egg. And again, B vitamins. We've got some B vitamins in there, and we can't forget our iron.
Wonderful. Okay, so show you what we have. That base with the onion and the garlic, a little bit of the miso, nutritional yeast if you want, and then the corn and the lentils in here. At this point, we're going to cover it, and all we need is water. That miso paste is going to dissolve in the water. It's going to add sort of that flavor that we're looking for. So we don't need any extra broth or stock. So you can add, just regular water. But if you warm it up, so I just have a kettle here. It sort of prevents the cooking from stopping, because if we have cold water, it would sort of stop that cooking process. Which again, it's not a big deal. It's not like we're making like a risotto or something here, but it'll just be quicker, it'll cook quicker if the water is warm, okay? So I wanna add to cover by at least a couple inches. So I'm adding about 1 liter, 4 cups of the water to this. And once that comes up to a simmer, we're going to cover it. Turn it down to medium, low, and then just let that cook away 10 minutes. It's really just the red lentils that have to dissolve. And then you'll see if it's really thick, because those red lentils are going to now absorb a lot of that water. The corn will actually help to absorb some of the water as well. If you find it really thick, you can just top it up, add a little bit more water as you need. And then that's it. Now you have options here. You can leave this nice and sort of chunky and rustic, and that would be fantastic. If you want to blend it, you can absolutely do that. And on that note, with blending, another tool that you might find a little bit easier, instead of having to transfer this pot to a blender and a lot more things to clean, a lot more things to lift, these are wonderful. These little immersion blenders here. I know, Daniela, you love this tool.
They are my favorite tool.
And so what's nice, again, is we can just bring this directly to the pot. And you can blend it until it's nice and creamy and broken down. Blend a little bit more. I was just sort of mimicking. I've already blended this. It won't be that quick, but it's again really nice, really convenient. You can just bring this tool right to the pot, and then just go ahead and blend. If you want it even smoother, you can go through the extra process of straining it out. Some of the fiber from the corn will get strained out, but otherwise you'll have this really, really nice sort of creamy, and it's just really filling in a good way, like a nice lentils and the corn, really, really nice. And we're gonna go ahead and plate this. Now I like to finish it with a little bit of lime juice. So add some of that acid, and you can season it at that point to taste, which I've already added the lime juice. And then we'll go ahead and plate this. Again, I'm lifting the pot, but make it work for you.
And I suppose you could also use that pot holder oven mitt, right? To hold on to it if it gets hot. Yeah, just be on the safe side. Yeah.
And then just as a little garnish, do things a little bit extra here in our kitchen. I'm adding some toasted pumpkin, or not pumpkin seeds. You can add pumpkin seeds. I'm adding sunflower seeds. Just a little bit of sunflower seeds, just for that texture. Maybe a little bit more olive oil on top, and there we have our really nice corn miso soup. A little bit of the sunflower seeds.
That looks awesome. So good. I could eat that right now. If I was in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'll save some for you. But it smells amazing too. Again, you think of certain flavors, like squash and carrots when we're thinking of fall, but I think corn, like you mentioned, unsung hero, wonderful little dish.